Coming up on 27 Eyewitness News, heat, and more heat gives one utility its biggest day yet.
Well, that same heat sounds a call to play it safe outdoors.
And a big construction project has Southside businesses missing a big chunk of sales.
These stories and much more just ahead.
Join us.
This is 27 Eyewitness News with Paul Pittis, Patty Lowe, meteorologist Brian Albrecht, and sports with Jay Wilson.
Good evening, everyone. First off, some severe weather has entered the Dane County area tonight.
Brian Albrecht is here to give us an update. Brian?
Well, a severe thunderstorm warning for Dane County has just expired. We've had strong winds move through the area, and they continue to blow through. The heavy rains also coming in from the north. If we look at the Doppler radar live here from the 27 studios, you can see the heaviest rainfall now coming down from the north into central Dane County, just beginning in Jefferson down towards Stoughton. And there has been some wind damage reports, mainly minor damage in Columbia County just a short time ago. So obviously you wouldn't want to be outdoors in a situation like this, and it's just best to wait until the storm passes, and we'll get some rain, fortunately enough, and it'll cool things down briefly.
Just briefly?
Briefly.
All right. Well, if you stepped outside today or went without air conditioning, you just couldn't avoid it, and the utility companies have the statistics to prove it.
This traditionally is the hottest week of the year, and as Bruce Neeb reports, we've already begun to set some new records for energy use.
Here at the Wisconsin Power and Light Systems Operations Center in Stoughton, it's been a day of bells and flashing lights. Since 8 this morning, hard-working air conditioners and refrigerators throughout WPNL's service area have generated a steady flow of minor alerts from local substations. At noon today, the demand for electricity broke 1,600 megawatts for the first time in WPNL's history.
We reached a peak of 1,634 megawatts. Our previous all-time peak demand was 1,516 megawatts, which was reached last month. And last year, in July, we reached 1,470, so you can see we've had a significant increase.
Similarly, utilities here in Madison, in Milwaukee, and throughout the state report they're producing energy at near maximum capacity as the heat wave begins to build. While WPNL has reached uncharted territory at over 1,600 megawatts, Luke says keeping up with even hotter temperatures in the days ahead will simply involve rerouting electricity, as was done today.
Our capacity situation is about 1,900 megawatts, so we had sufficient reserves that we were able to meet our customers' demand. We were also selling some to our neighboring utilities, so we were in a good situation today.
Luke says when it comes to purchasing electricity, most will find they're paying just as much in the evening hours as they are during peak times. If you're hoping to cut costs, he says you can always set the thermostat controlling central air conditioning a few degrees higher. Bruce Neeb, 27 Eyewitness News.
Well, the lights went out in Fitchburg for a while today. Madison Gas and Electric started getting calls about 3:15 this afternoon about a power outage. Apparently, a cable at the McKee Road substation failed. MG&E officials say the heat may have caused the failure, but they aren't quite sure. The affected area was north of McKee Road to the Beltline. All service was restored at around 5 o'clock. Remember this scene from the 1984 Olympics. A Swiss marathon runner stumbles her way to the finish line. Disoriented and exhausted, she collapses into the arms of paramedics, showing the classic signs of heat stroke. While athletes are prime candidates for heat stroke, construction workers and others who spend a lot of time outdoors are also susceptible. So are the elderly and people in poorly ventilated homes.
The initial signs of someone developing heat stroke usually are fairly straightforward if you think about it, and basically anyone who starts to become confused or acts abnormal, that's the first sign of heat stroke because it shows that the brain is changing.
Dr. Gerking says it's important to use common sense during a heat wave. Pace yourself, drink plenty of fluids, and rest periodically. The best thing to do if you suspect someone is suffering from heat stroke, lower the victim's body temperature by sponging them with water. Use a fan if you have one. And above all, get them to a hospital.
And the Humane Society has a warning to pet owners tonight. Do not leave your pet in a car, even with the windows rolled down. Pets are even more susceptible to heat stroke than humans. Don't leave your pets outside for a long period of time. Keep them in the coolest part of the home. Don't exercise them during a heat wave. and make sure they have plenty of water. Severe thunderstorms whipped across northern parts of the state this morning, damaging a barn, knocking down trees, and blowing outdoor furniture. According to the National Weather Service, there were torrential rains, gusty winds, lightning strikes, and small hail. In Barron County, winds blew in excess of 60 miles per hour. Douglas County received 8 unconfirmed reports of funnel clouds, but no damage was reported. Well, it's been an especially long and hot summer for businesses along Madison's South Park Street.
A major construction project is keeping customers out of the stores, and as Eric Zetkowski reports, shop owners can only count their losses.
If you've driven on South Park Street any time since June 1st, you're no stranger to the problems of construction. The city is in the middle of a road widening and improvement project, which won't be finished for at least another month. While the construction is definitely a headache for drivers, it's a much bigger problem for businesses located along Park Street. 1 hour Martinizing is a good example. Business here is down 75%, primarily because construction is very inconvenient for customers.
Can't get through the roads. Nobody wants to take detours to get here. They're constantly tearing up dirt all the time into the office. It's real bad.
The Park Street Shoe Repair Shop is in a similar bind. A drop in sales helped George Fabian decide to take a 2-week vacation. What has construction done to your business?
Well, it's cut it in half. I'm down 50% at least.
Amato's restaurant went one step further. Owners decided to close down until the construction's over rather than lose thousands of dollars. In the meantime, business people can only wait and hope the project is completed on schedule. They're confident, however, that once their main street is back, their customers won't be far behind.
Oh, I don't see why not. I certainly hope so.
Eric Zatkowski, 27 Eyewitness News.
A motorcycle spun out of control at the 6700 block of Raymond Road just before noon today. The driver of the motorcycle, 27-year-old John Kendrick, was cited for failure to have control of his cycle. A passenger on the vehicle, 22-year-old Tia Kendrick, was taken to St. Mary's Hospital with injuries. She is in fair condition. John Kendrick was taken to UW Hospital. His condition is unknown at this time.
The prime suspect in the disappearance of a Marinette girl is being held on $100,000 cash bail tonight. 41-year-old Charles Blassengame allegedly dumped the body of 11-year-old Tammy Lynn McAlis after abducting her last week. He's also charged with attempted second-degree sexual assault, false imprisonment, and kidnapping. Still to come tonight, Brian says, when you're hot, you're hot.
In sports, amateur golfers try to beat the heat at Maple Bluff.
And the first in a series of reports on what happens to our society's young lawbreakers. Stay with us.
The release of convicted killer Pete Zimmer of Mineral Point this month has focused attention on how young lawbreakers are dealt with.
The fact is, only a small fraction of juvenile cases are as serious as the Zimmer case. Still, there are thousands of others who are committing lesser crimes against society. What happens to these young people in trouble with the law? Tonight, the first of a 5-part series, Learning the Hard Way. It happens for a variety of reasons: drug dependency, peer pressure, lack of supervision. Teenagers in trouble with the law. In most cases, young men and women arrested for crimes end up in the custody of their parents until they appear in court. Others end up here, detention, in the Madison City County building.
A lot of the kids that we do have are kids who have been through other steps in the system. They're not often, it's not often the first time they've been picked up by the police for something.
A narrow hallway leads to a small locked holding room. There is time for thinking and reading. Some are frightened.
It's certainly not a pleasant place to be. Most of them really make the best of it. And I think some may feel, for whatever reason, a certain amount of security from being in a place where there's not a lot of decisions to be made.
Depending on the severity of a crime, a judge can order any one of a number of things: probation, home detention, time in a group home, counseling, or this, restitution, paying back the victims of crime.
David Anderson just turned 18. As a juvenile, he was convicted of mailing a controlled substance. He was sentenced to 100 hours of community service. He's doing that by loading newspapers for recycling at this city garage. He's doing it with others paying similar debts to society.
It proves to me more and more every day that I never should have done what I did. I know that I knew that in the first place. And this is just reinforcing it.
Buck Rhyme runs the youth restitution program.
I've seldom run into a kid who's not been able to understand the rightness or fairness of the concept of restitution.
Rhyme says if David had been tried as an adult, he would have likely received probation, a slap on the hand. Now, because of his involvement in restitution, Rhyme says David will likely be offered a job in the program. So far, David Anderson is a success story, but there are other young people who, for a variety of reasons, continue a life of crime. Tomorrow, the final stop.
Hot.
That's,
word.
well, that's one word, and thunderstorm is the other word.
Rain.
They go hand in hand. I think we'll have less of the storms and more of the heat all week long.
Nasty pair.
Good evening, everyone. The weather making most of the news today, and rightfully so. Heat and some very strong thunderstorms dominating what we have today. 94 was the highest temperature I've seen on the hour. We may have hit 95, which would tie us for the hottest day of the year. It's then the most humid day of the year, with the dew point climbing to 78 degrees earlier. So high thus far, as I've seen it, 94. The low 75 this morning, very sticky. And the rainfall, well, no report as yet. It's raining heavily throughout much of Dane County, much of southern Wisconsin. And I expect most spots will likely end up with a good 1/2 to 1.5 inches of badly needed rainfall by the time the storms end up a bit later on this evening. Currently, heavy rain and 72 at Truax Field. Northeast winds gusting to 39. The humidity, 84%. And the barometer rising from 30.20 inches of mercury. A look at our live Doppler radar shows that the rain is widespread throughout the 27 area. Rock County, Greene County still dry, but the gust front with these storms, that's the area where the winds really pick up, is well out ahead of the rain area and moving into Rock County and Greene County. So if you are in those areas, you can expect the winds to increase rapidly. The heavy rainfall about a half an hour behind, now covering most of Dane County. Things beginning to dry a little bit over parts of Columbia County where there had been some wind damage in the area just to the southwest of Portage. And things are beginning to dry out a little bit in Sauk County. These storms moving toward the southeast at about 40 miles per hour, so they should be with us for the next couple of hours. And then I'd say after 8 or 9 p.m., things will be quieting down, and it'll be just hot and humid again. Well, at least warm and sticky tonight. Another hot, humid day again for tomorrow. Now, our thunderstorms are part of a big complex of storms over Wisconsin. It started up in the northern part of the state earlier today. Just about an hour ago, it was over central Wisconsin. Now, as we've seen, it's moved into our area, and the rain is pretty well widespread. Otherwise, not a whole lot going on besides the heat. An isolated storm near Detroit, one also back out in western Minnesota and parts of South Dakota, and also the panhandle areas of Texas and Oklahoma seeing a little bit of rain, but hot, humid sunshine dominating most of the rest of the nation's midsection. And the heat was also just as big news as the temperature, as the thunderstorms is rather. 96 at East Bristol, 96 degrees in Sun Prairie, 96 also in Shorewood Hills, and 96 at Black Earth and Sauk City. So everybody had just about the same share of heat. A 98-degree reading from Edgerton, also a 98-degree reading from Reedsburg this afternoon. Those were the hottest spots. 87 in Platteville. That was the coolest, only area that didn't make 90 this afternoon. The big puffy billow of clouds with the storms moving toward the east-northeast across the area. So clear skies dominating most of the rest of the Midwest, Illinois, most of Iowa, and now Minnesota. Things beginning to clear out already in western Wisconsin. So I do expect these clouds to pass, and we'll get back into clear weather later tonight. A lot of moisture out in the western part of the nation. That's where it's going to stay. Big weather system out there. We've got just a high-pressure system over the lower Ohio Valley and parts of Kentucky, pumping up heat and humidity from the Gulf Coast. And the stationary front to the north of us, it's providing the ingredients that mix it all together to produce the thunderstorms, rather. And that's the way things are going to stay. That front may inch a little bit further to the north the next few days, and so more of the storms will pass to the north. I think we're going to be into some drier weather. Tomorrow, hot, sunshine once again, very sticky. Thunderstorms in the northern part of the state in the afternoon, not as widespread as today, as that front stays up over northern and eastern parts of the Badger State and curves down into the eastern Great Lakes. Wednesday, it'll arc even further to the north as a warm front. Steamy, sticky air once again, back up into the mid-90s tomorrow and Wednesday, and I see no real relief in sight. Thunderstorm activity may be in the extreme northern part of the state, but that's about as close as it's going to get. Summing things up for tonight, we have a severe thunderstorm watch in effect for most of southern Wisconsin, except the counties along the Illinois border until 9 p.m. Storms this evening, then just clearing warm and muggy, low near 70. Tomorrow, it's going to be mostly sunny, hazy, hot, and humid, a high of 94. Southwest winds 10 to 15, and the exact same thing on Wednesday. Mostly sunny, hot and humid, and a high temperature of 94 degrees. The badly needed rain tonight, we don't need the severe weather, but it should be ending shortly, and then hot weather through the rest of the week.
Okay, thank you, Brian. 3 people are injured, all apparently seriously, in a collision less than an hour ago here on the west side. Madison police say 2 cars collided head-on near the intersection of University Avenue and Allen Boulevard. No word yet on the exact cause of the crash. Officials say 2 people have been taken to University Hospital and another was rushed to Madison General.
Further development should be prohibited along some scenic routes of the Wisconsin River. That recommendation from an environmental impact study conducted by the Department of Natural Resources. Officials say in order to keep scenic beauty intact, you have to build away from the river. That report will be part of various town meetings later on this fall discussing development along the Wisconsin River. Coming up in sports, the Brewers try to figure out what's wrong with the bullpen.
And a Middleton cyclist is as hot as the weather. Jay Wilson has details next.
Well, I would imagine the worst place to be right now is on a golf course.
Yeah, and fortunately, all the golfers at the state amateur golf tournament in Maple Bluff were pulled off about 5:30 because they were keeping advised of all the weather throughout the afternoon.
Nasty.
Yeah, and
potential lightning rods.
yeah,
right?
and it seems, you remind people, but still sometimes
there's always a few
like that. Yeah, but fortunately, everything's okay today. 174 hardy souls are entered in this week's men's state amateur golf tournament at Maple Bluff. You can bet a lot will be said about the heat before this tournament wraps up by Thursday. It's the 7th time Maple Bluff has hosted the men's state amateur, first time since 1972. Here's first day action. Watch this putt by Jim Tirabassi of Maple Crest from off the green. That's one way to beat the heat. Birdie on number 9. Of course, the bluff is tough enough to begin with, but the rough is a little rougher than usual for this tournament. Just ask West Bend's Randy Warabik. Plenty of Madison golfers in the field, like Blackhawks' Dick Regenberg. As we said, they called the golfers off the course because of bad weather. North Hills' Dave Miley and Whitnall's Mike Taylor. The best rounds of the day so far is 70. Another 18 holes tomorrow before they make the cut for the final rounds Wednesday and Thursday. Brewers are back below the 500 mark again as their 11-game homestand continues tonight at County Stadium. Mark Knudsen gets the start against the Seattle Mariners. Now, what the heck is going on with the Brewer bullpen? Dan Plesac blew a lead Saturday night. Yesterday, Jay Aldrich and Paul Mirabella did the same thing in an 8-5 loss to the California Angels. Tom Treble, of course, isn't happy about it, but he certainly isn't alone.
We've got the same problem that a lot of teams in baseball have, and we've been spoiled by such a fine job that Plesac has done. And now I'm afraid we're just experiencing what a lot of other clubs have experienced, losing leads late in games. It's happened all over baseball, and it's happened to a lot of ball clubs, and we've been spoiled at this point in the season. Now it's happened 2 in a row, and everybody goes, well, gee whiz, what allows you this? And, God, what are you going to do about that? Well, hey, get in line.
And yes, the New York Yankees are on Monday Night Baseball again tonight. Yankees are at the Homer Dome against the Minnesota Twins. It'll start at 7 o'clock on Channel 27. Alan Kulwicki has come close to winning his first NASCAR race a few times this year, but none closer than yesterday. The Grand National driver from Greenfield, Wisconsin, was leading Dale Earnhardt on the final lap of the Summer 500 at Pocono, but Earnhardt put on that great move in Turn 2. He left Kulwicki standing and stayed in front of the finish. Earnhardt's 9th win of the season, but not without a great fight from Kulwicki.
Well, Alan run real good. He's awful tough there at the end. He got he revving a little bit, and we raced right on, though. We came on back, and he gave me a good race.
And Earnhardt expanded his lead to over 400 points in the Winston Cup Driving Championship Series. Neil Bonnet has moved into second place ahead of Bill Elliott. Well, while most of us spent the day in front of the air conditioner, the Super Week Cycling Series continued today in Neenah. Of course, yesterday the Tour made a stop in Madison on the Capitol Square. Now, there have been some good cyclists from the area through the years around here, and next in line appears to be Middleton's Tom Matush. He's 18 years old, but already making a name for himself, and he's only been racing for about 4 years.
I just entered my first race, which was a citizens race, and I won that, and I thought it was a lot of fun. So I just kept it up, and here I am, winning Pepsi Lowenbrow Super Week. I'd like to go professional within the next 3 or 4 years, maybe the Olympics. But my main goal is to race in races like the Tour de France.
This guy, I think, is going to win a world championship in the next few years or win a medal for the United States in upcoming Olympics. He's a good-looking boy. He's a nice individual. He's a great athlete, and he's from America's Dairyland. What more do you need to say?
He's got everything going for him, and only 18 years old. By the way, Pedro Delgado won the Tour de France race today, and Stefan Roche has taken on the overall lead. And the Muskies were postponed tonight at Warner Park. They'll play a doubleheader against Waterloo tomorrow night.
That's smart. And thank heavens they don't play with aluminum bats.
Absolutely, yeah.
Stay with us. We're coming right back.
So the Yankees are on again tonight, huh? You know how many phone calls we get when that happens?
Don't call in. We don't have any control over it.
We don't.
No, we don't. Forecast.
Well, it's
tonight.
good thing they're not playing here, otherwise probably get rained out, and the Brewers may themselves also get rained out. There's a lot of rain around Milwaukee also. This evening, we'll have the rain. Most of the severe weather has started to dissipate a little bit. That's good news. Lots of rain should be ending by about 9 o'clock, temperatures in the 70s.
Oh, well, that's good. And how long is that going to last?
A few hours, and then we'll be back up
Until
into
9 o'clock tomorrow morning.
This is awful. We have to get rid of this stuff. And coming up tonight, a group of Lake Mills parents battle their school board as they demand access to regular education for their disabled children. Jamie Ullman will have that story. Join us for that report along with all the day's news tonight at 10. Good night.
Or after the game.
Or after the game. Whatever comes first.
Right. Good night.